Since this year marked the end of all major work on Sally Face, I thought I'd recap the production of the game and other notable things I did along the way. In 2015, I was working at a warehouse. In my free time, I began working on an outline and a prototype for Sally Face. I had to learn some new skills as well, since this was my first solo project and I'm not a programmer. I'm more focused on the creative end of things like art, music, narrative, and so on. At the time, I was also working on a Wither Studios project that was eventually cancelled. 2016 was the beginning for Portable Moose, my solo company. I was laid off from the warehouse job and began working on Sally Face full-time. Episode 1, Strange Neighbors, released in August on itch.io to pretty much 0 downloads, so I decided to run a small crowdfunding campaign to see if I could get things going. During the campaign, Sally Face started gaining some traction on YouTube. That fall, I released episode 1 on Steam and sales started to pick up a little. Between this and the crowdfunding, it was enough to continue working on the game full-time without having to worry about finding a day job again. That year with Wither Studios, we began working on Amur, a psychological horror game. 2017 saw the release of Sally Face Episode 2, The Wretched, as I also continued to help Wither Studios with Amur in my free time. At this point, I was working a pretty unhealthy schedule of over 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, partly because I'm a workaholic and partly because I was pushing through some serious depression. Riding that wave of overworking, I released both episodes 3 and 4 in 2018, while also working on Amur. Sally Face was continuing to grow in popularity, expanding quite a lot with the launch of episode 4. In 2019, I started really easing up on my overworking habits for my long-term well-being. Despite that, I released the final episode, Memories and Dreams, and also helped Wither Studios launch Amur Part 1. As the world started to burn in 2020, I began working on the console ports for Sally Face and learned that the porting process is a total nightmare. Myself and a few of the Wither guys partnered up with DreadXP to create Touched by an Outer God. This was a short horror FPS that was included as part of the DreadX Collection 2. We also released Amur Part 2 that year. In 2021, with the help from my friend Mike Thomas, one of the Wither Studios programmers, I released Sally Face on Nintendo Switch. That was the first time anyone besides myself had worked on the game outside of translations. I also began working on some new translations that year, and then got together with the Knights of Unity to help port Sally Face to PlayStation and Xbox. When I began working with Super Rare Games on the physical Switch version, and working with Wither Studios on a new prototype called Monster Party. It's a horror party game inspired by Mario Party survival games and a general love for horror movies. In addition to all of that, I wrote the first draft for the script of Sally Face 2. It mapped out the higher level story and progression as well as many smaller details. In 2022, the physical Switch version launched with Super Rare and ended up selling out pretty fast. We also finished the long and painful journey of porting to PlayStation and Xbox, which both launched in April. The French and Spanish translations were finalized and released, making Sally Face available in 8 languages total. Funko released some cool new Sally Face pops. On the Wither Studios side of things, we continued working on Monster Party and recently began pitching the idea to publishers. This year, I began developing a board game with Maestro Media called Sally Face Strange Nightmares. It's a co-op adventure game where you're solving mysteries in the Addison apartments by rolling dice. It's turning out to be a lot of fun and has been getting very positive reception so far. Strange Nightmares will come to Kickstarter in February. Visit strangenightmares.com for more info, notifications, and a gizmo bonus. Now that the majority of work on Sally Face is finished, I'll be able to put some more time into the sequel. Right now I'm working on a second pass of the script, concept art, and fleshing out the first episode more. Originally I thought I'd be able to start full production this year, but there were too many other things to finish up first, and the console porting in particular took way longer than expected. So for those who sent me resumes, I wasn't quite ready for those yet, and I apologize for not getting back to anyone. I will contract out some of the work for Sally Face 2, so that it hopefully won't take another 5 to 7 years to develop this one. If possible, I'd love to work with some fans who know the content well. I'll mainly be looking for artists and maybe a programmer. Once I'm ready to accept resumes, I'll make a post about it to let you guys know. I have so many ambitions and projects that I can't wait to tackle in the future. I appreciate everyone that has joined me on this journey, and I'm excited for you all to see what's to come with Sallyface and beyond.